The day I found out my sister stole my college fund, I was organising my financial aid documents at our kitchen table. My acceptance letter to Stanford lay beside me. My dream school since I was 12. I'd worked my entire life for this moment, maintaining a 4.0 GPA while juggling 3 part-time jobs to supplement the savings account my parents had started for me when I was born. My name is Mary, and that was the day my family showed me exactly who they were. What do you mean the account is empty? I stared at my mother across the kitchen table, my hands trembling as I held the bank statement. There should be over $40,000 in there. Mom stirred her coffee casually, not meeting my eyes. Sydney needed it more than you did, honey. You're smart. You'll figure something out. The room started spinning. Sydney needed my college fund for what exactly? As if summoned, my sister sauntered into the kitchen wearing designer clothes I'd never seen before. A brand new iPhone peeked out of her Gucci purse. Oh my God, is this about the money? Sydney rolled her eyes. You're being so dramatic. I needed to establish myself socially before starting my influencer career. Image is everything these days. You spent my college fund on clothes and accessories. My voice cracked. Mom, Dad, you let her do this. Dad walked in, newspaper tucked under his arm. Princess, your sister has a real shot at making it big on social media. It's an investment in her future. Besides, you can always go to community college. I felt like I'd been slapped. An investment? What about my future? I got into Stanford, Sydney laughed. Actually laughed. Please. Like you could handle Stanford anyway. You should be thanking me for saving you from embarrassing yourself. Mary, Mom sighed. We always knew Sydney had that special something. You're more practical. You'll be fine wherever you go. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. Practical? I worked 3 jobs while maintaining perfect grades. I earned that money. It was meant for my education. Oh, stop being so selfish, Sydney snapped. I already have 10,000 followers. Once I hit it big, I'll pay you back double. When did you take it? I demanded. How long have you all been lying to me? Mum and Dad exchanged glances. We transferred it to Sydney's account about 6 months ago, Dad admitted. She had a solid business plan. 6 months, I interrupted. While I was working overtime at the diner, while I was applying for scholarships. Look what I got with it, Sydney twirled, showing off her outfit. Don't you think I look amazing? This is what success looks like, Mary. Something inside me broke. I walked to my room without another word, pulled out my suitcase and started packing. My hands were steady now, my mind clear. I could hear them talking in the kitchen. She'll get over it, Mum was saying. She always does. Should we check on her? Dad asked. Let her throw her little tantrum, Sydney replied. She's just jealous of my potential. I zipped up my suitcase and walked back to the kitchen. I'm leaving. Don't be ridiculous, Mom scoffed. Where would you go? Anywhere but here. I pulled out my phone and dialed my friend Brady's number. Hey, can I crash at your place for a while? Of course, he answered immediately. Everything okay? I'll explain when I get there. I hung up and faced my family one last time. You know what's funny? I always knew Sydney was your favourite, but I never thought you'd steal from me to prove it. We didn't steal anything, Dad protested. We redistributed family resources. Save it. I headed for the door. I hope those followers are worth it, Sydney, because you just bought them with my trust and respect. Mary, don't be dramatic, Mom started. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being practical, remember? And practically speaking, I no longer have a family. I walked out, wheeling my suitcase behind me. As I reached the sidewalk, I heard Sydney call out, "You'll regret this when I'm famous." I didn't look back. I had exactly $342.87 in my personal account, a part-time job at a diner, and an acceptance letter to a school I could no longer afford. But I also had something else. A burning determination to prove them all wrong. Brady was waiting for me when I arrived at his apartment 20 minutes later. One look at my face and he knew something was seriously wrong. Want to talk about it? He asked, helping me with my suitcase. I took a deep breath. Yeah, but first, I need to figure out how to apply for student loans. I'm going to Stanford with or without their help. Living out of Brady's spare room wasn't exactly the fresh start I'd imagined for myself, but it was better than going back home. The first week was the hardest. I'd wake up confused, reaching for my childhood alarm clock before remembering where I was. "You need to eat something," Brady insisted one morning, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs across his kitchen counter. "You've got that financial aid meeting at Stanford today." I pushed the eggs around with my fork. "What's the point? Even with loans and aid, I'm still short by thousands." "Then we'll figure something out," Brady sat beside me. "But you're not giving up. I didn't watch you work your ass off for 4 years just to let your sister's shopping spree derail your future." The financial aid officer's name was Rachel, and she changed my life that afternoon. "Your situation is unusual," she said, reviewing my documents. "But not impossible. Tell me, Mary, how badly do you want to attend Stanford?" "More than anything," I replied without hesitation. "I'll work 3 jobs if I have to." Rachel smiled. "That won't be necessary. There's a work-study program in my department. It won't cover everything, but combined with loans and a partial scholarship, I think we can make this work. The catch is, you'll need to take a reduced course load. It might take 5 years instead of 4. "I'll take it," I said immediately. "I don't care if it takes 10 years. That evening, I picked up an extra shift at the diner to celebrate. The irony wasn't lost on me, celebrating the chance to work more by working more. As I refilled coffee cups, my phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. "OMG sis, just hit 15K followers. Told you this was a good investment. Miss you." I deleted it without responding. Months passed. I settled into a routine. Classes in the morning, work-study in the afternoon, diner shifts at night. Brady's spare room became my sanctuary, decorated with second-hand furniture I'd picked up from yard sales. "You should see their Facebook posts," Brady said one evening as we shared takeout. "Sydney's influencer career isn't exactly taking off. Your dad's business isn't doing great either." "I don't want to know," I replied, focusing on my noodles. "They're not my problem anymore." But late that night, I found myself scrolling through their profiles. Sydney's follower count had plateaued. Her latest posts were mostly ads for sketchy weight loss teas. Mum's usually cheerful updates had taken on a worried tone, with vague references to challenging times and keeping faith. The next morning, Rachel caught me yawning during our work-study shift. "Late night?" she asked, handing me a stack of files to organise. "Just thinking too much." I hesitated. "Can I ask you something? How do you know when you've made the right choice?" Rachel set down her coffee. "Is this about your family? How did you—" "Mary, you're not the first student I've seen whose family let them down. But you're one of the few who turned that disappointment into determination." She leaned forward. "The right choice isn't always the easy one. Sometimes it's the one that hurts, but helps you grow. I just feel—" I searched for the words. "Lost, sometimes. Like I'm floating without an anchor." "Then build new anchors," she said simply. "Create your own support system. Look around, you've already started." She was right. Between Brady's unwavering support, Rachel's mentorship, and my own stubborn persistence, I was slowly building something new. Something that was entirely mine. That night at the diner, I overheard 2 customers discussing a new tech startup that was revolutionizing financial software. They mentioned they were hiring entry-level programmers. "Excuse me," I interrupted, setting down their coffee. I couldn't help overhearing. "I'm actually studying computer science at Stanford." 2 weeks later, I quit the diner for an internship that paid twice as much. When I told Brady, he insisted on taking me out to celebrate. "To new beginnings," he toasted, raising his glass. "And old friends," I added, clinking my glass against his. "I wouldn't be here without you, Brady." "Please," he scoffed. "You did all the hard work. I just provided the couch." My phone buzzed. Another text from Sydney. "Mom and Dad are worried about you. At least let them know you're okay." I turned off my phone and focused on Brady. "Tell me about your day instead." As we talked and laughed, I realized Rachel was right. I was building new anchors, creating my own definition of family. And for the first time since that day in the kitchen, I felt truly, completely okay. Little did I know that in a few years, those same people who had laughed at my dreams would be the ones desperately seeking my help. But that's another story. One that would prove that karma has perfect timing. 5 years after walking out of my childhood home, I stood on Stanford's graduation stage, my heart pounding as they called my name. The internship had turned into a full-time position, and I'd managed to graduate with honors despite my extended timeline. "Mary!" Brady shouted from the crowd, whistling loudly. Beside him, Rachel beamed, looking every bit as proud as a mother should. Later, at the small celebration dinner Brady organized, Rachel handed me an envelope. "Open it," she urged, practically bouncing in her seat. Inside was a job offer, Director of Student Financial Services at Stanford. "But that's your job," I said, confused. "Was my job," Rachel corrected. "I'm moving to the Dean's office, and I recommended you as my replacement." "You've lived it, Mary. You know what these kids are going through. Who better to help them?" I looked at the salary figure and nearly choked on my wine. It was more money than I'd ever imagined making, especially combined with my tech job, which I'd decided to keep part-time. "Speech!" Brady called out, raising his glass. "To the two people who became my real family," I said, my voice thick, "who believed in me when my own family wouldn't. Speaking of family," Brady said carefully, sliding his phone across the table, "you might want to see this." It was a local news article. "McCoy Technologies files for bankruptcy," the headline read. My father's company, once the pride of his life, was failing. The article mentioned mounting debts and mismanagement. "There's more," Brady added. "Sydney's influencer career." Well, I pulled up her Instagram. Her follower count had dropped dramatically, and her last post was a tearful video about being scammed by a fake modeling agency. She'd lost thousands of dollars, probably what remained of my college fund. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked softly. "Honestly, I feel nothing." I handed the phone back to Brady. They made their choice 5 years ago. The next morning, I walked into my new office at Stanford, ready to start my first day. By lunch, I'd already helped 2 students figure out their financial aid options. As I was reviewing a third case, my office phone rang. "Mary?" "It's Mom." My hand froze over the paperwork. "How did you get this number?" "Your old friend Jessica works in administration. Please don't hang up." Her voice cracked. "We need to talk." "We needed to talk 5 years ago," I replied coldly, "before you let Sydney steal my future." "She didn't steal—" Mom caught herself. "Look, things are difficult right now. Your father's business, Sydney's investments. We're losing the house, Mary." "That sounds like a personal problem." "We're family," she pleaded. "Family?" I laughed. "Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't dismiss dreams as impractical. Family doesn't—" "We made a mistake," she interrupted. "We know that now. Please, can we just meet? Have dinner? Your father and Sydney will be there. We need to make things right." I was about to refuse when Rachel's words from years ago echoed in my mind. Sometimes the right choice is the one that hurts but helps you grow. "Fine," I said finally. "Thursday night. Send me the details." After hanging up, I called Brady. "They want to meet," I told him. "Are you going?" "Yes." I took a deep breath. But not for them. For me. I want them to see exactly what they threw away. That evening, I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting my blazer. My reflection showed someone different from the broken girl who'd fled with a single suitcase. This woman was successful, confident, and, most importantly, whole. My phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. "Can't wait to see you, sis. We have so much catching up to do." I thought about all the times I'd dreamed of this moment, of showing them how wrong they were about me. But now that it was here, I realized something important. I didn't need their validation anymore. "You don't have to do this," Brady said when I called him again. "I know." I grabbed my car keys. "But I want to. Besides, I'm curious to see what they think constitutes making things right." "Want me to come with?" "No," I replied, thinking of the folder I'd prepared with bank statements, achievement certificates, and my new business cards. "I can handle this." As I drove to the restaurant, I thought about how life has a way of coming full circle. 5 years ago, they'd laughed at my dreams. Now they needed my help. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I wasn't the same person they'd betrayed. I was stronger now, wiser, and I had a feeling this dinner was going to be very interesting indeed. The restaurant they chose was significantly less upscale than the ones they used to frequent. I spotted them immediately. Mom nervously adjusting her knockoff handbag, Dad's shoulders slumped in his worn suit, and Sydney picking at her chipped nail polish. "Mary!" Sydney jumped up, arms outstretched for a hug I didn't return. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by fast fashion basics. "Let's skip the pretense," I said, taking my seat. "You didn't invite me here for a family reunion." Mom's face fell. "Can't we at least catch up first? You look different." Success does that to a person. I placed my folder on the table. "So, who wants to start?" "Dad, how's the business?" He flinched. We've hit a rough patch." "The market?" "Filed for bankruptcy," I corrected. "Sydney, how's the influencer career?" She stared at her water glass. "That's not fair." "Neither was stealing my college fund, but here we are." "Mary," Mom interrupted. "We know we made mistakes, but we're still family." "Family?" I opened my folder and pulled out my bank statement from 5 years ago. "Let's talk about family. Here's the account you emptied. $43,000 to be exact, my entire future." "We can explain," Dad started. "I'm not finished." I pulled out my Stanford acceptance letter. "Remember this? The one you said I couldn't handle?" "Well, guess what?" I slid my diploma across the table. "Graduated with honors, while working 2 jobs." Sydney's eyes widened at my business cards. "Director of Student Financial Services, and you work in tech too?" "Turns out I'm not just practical, I'm actually pretty damn successful." I leaned back. "Now, why don't you tell me why we're really here?" Mom burst into tears. "We're losing everything, Mary. The house, the cars, your father's business debts." "The modelling agency scammed me," Sydney added quietly. "All my followers left when I couldn't maintain my lifestyle." "We need..." Dad cleared his throat. "We need help. A loan. Just until we get back on our feet." I let the silence stretch. A waiter approached, but I waved him away. "How much?" $75,000, Dad mumbled, "to keep the house and settle the urgent debts." I pulled out my phone, pulled up my banking app. "I could transfer it right now, I have the money." Their faces lit up with hope. "But before I do," I continued, "I want you to explain something to me. That day in the kitchen, when you told me I wasn't special enough for Stanford, did you believe that?" "We were wrong," Mom whispered. "We were so wrong." "That's not what I asked." I put my phone away. "Did you believe it?" Sydney spoke up, her voice small. "I did. I thought I was better than you, that I deserved it more. And now I know I was just entitled and stupid." She wiped her eyes. "I ruined your dreams for Instagram likes." Dad reached across the table. "Princess, please, we can't lose the house. Your mother and sister will have nowhere to go." I stood up, gathering my folder. "I'll think about it." "That's it?" Sydney's voice cracked. "You're just leaving?" "Unlike some people, I don't make major financial decisions on impulse." I pulled on my coat. "I'll contact you with my decision in 3 days." "Mary, wait," Mom called as I turned to leave. "What happened to you? You used to be so sweet." I paused, looking back at their desperate faces. "I grew up. I learned that sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. And I learned that I'm worth more than you ever thought I was." "We know that now," Sydney whispered. "No," I corrected her. "You know you need me now. There's a difference." As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Brady. "How'd it go?" I typed back, "They need $75K. They're desperate." His response was immediate. "What are you going to do?" I smiled, thinking of the document I'd asked my lawyer to draw up yesterday just in case. Something they'll never expect. Because while they thought they were asking for a loan, I had a different proposition in mind. One that would make them face exactly what they'd done to me, dollar by dollar, day by day. They wanted my help? Fine. But this time, we'd do it my way. And my way involved a contract that would make them understand the true cost of betrayal. I started my car, already drafting the terms in my head. 3 days. In 3 days, they'd learn exactly what kind of woman their practical daughter had become. 3 days later, I walked into my lawyer's office where my family was already waiting. Their faces lit up with hope when they saw me. Hope that quickly faded when they noticed the thick contract I was carrying. "What's this?" Dad asked, eyeing the document. "My terms." I sat down, sliding a copy to each of them. "You want $75,000? Here's how you'll get it." Mom flipped through the pages, her hands trembling. "A contract, but we're family." "Family didn't stop you from stealing from me." I nodded to my lawyer. "Please explain the terms." He cleared his throat. "The $75,000 will be disbursed in monthly installments of $5,000, provided all conditions are met." "Conditions?" Sydney interrupted. "What conditions?" "First," I said, "Sydney needs to get a real job. Not influencing, not modelling. An actual 9-to-5 position. Each month she'll put half her salary into a scholarship fund I'm establishing for students whose families have abandoned them financially." Sydney's face reddened. "That's not—" "Second," I continued, "Dad needs to take a financial management course and work with a court-appointed bankruptcy advisor. No more risky business ventures." Dad started to protest, but I held up my hand. "Third, Mum will volunteer 10 hours per week at the University Financial Aid Office, helping students figure out how to pay for college when their families let them down." "This is ridiculous," Mum sputtered. "We're asking for help, not punishment." "No," I corrected her. "You're asking for money. I'm offering a chance at redemption. There's more." My lawyer turned to the next page. "The house will be sold. A smaller, more affordable property will be purchased with part of the funds. The remaining money will go toward debt settlement." "Sell the house?" Dad exploded. "That's our home." "No, it's a symbol of your pride that you can no longer afford." I leaned forward. Just like my college fund was supposed to be untouchable. But here we are. Sydney was reading through the contract, her face pale. "It says here we have to attend family therapy?" "Monthly sessions, all of us." I met their shocked stares. "You want to talk about family? Let's talk about it with a professional who can help us unpack exactly what happened 5 years ago. And if we refuse?" Mum's voice was barely a whisper. "Then you get nothing." I stood up. "You have 1 hour to decide. I'll be in the coffee shop downstairs." Brady was waiting for me there. "How'd they take it?" "About as well as expected." I stirred my coffee. "They thought I'd just write a check and forget everything that happened." "Will they sign?" "They don't have a choice. The bank's foreclosing next month and Sydney's credit is destroyed from her failed influencer ventures." 45 minutes later, my lawyer called. They were ready to talk. I returned to find them huddled together, looking defeated. "Before you sign," I said, "I want you to understand something. This isn't about revenge. This is about accountability." "It feels like punishment," Sydney muttered. "Really? Because to me it feels like an opportunity, the kind you didn't give me." I pulled out my own pen. "I'll sign first, to show you I'm committed to this. All of it, including the therapy." Dad picked up his pen next. "We really don't have a choice, do we?" "You always have a choice, just like you had a choice 5 years ago." I watched as he signed. "The difference is this time I'm giving you a chance to make the right one." Mom signed next, tears falling onto the paper. Sydney was last, her signature shaky but determined. "What now?" she asked. "Now," I said, gathering the contracts. "You start over, just like I had to. The first installment will be transferred tomorrow. Sydney, I have 3 job interviews lined up for you next week. Dad, your first financial management class starts Monday. And the therapy?" Mom asked. "First session is Thursday at 6 p.m. Don't be late." I handed them each a copy of the signed contract. "Welcome to your fresh start. Try not to waste it this time." As they filed out, Sydney lingered behind. "Why are you really doing this?" You could have just said no. I thought about the scared girl I'd been, packing her bags with shaking hands, about Brady's spare room and Rachel's kindness, about late nights studying and early mornings working. Because someone once told me that the right choice isn't always the easy one. I met her eyes. Sometimes it's the one that hurts but helps you grow. She nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. As she left, I pulled out my phone to text Brady. They signed. All of them. His response came quickly. You're either the most forgiving person I know or the most brilliant. I smiled, thinking of the journey ahead. Maybe I'm both. The first therapy session was as uncomfortable as I'd expected. We sat in a semicircle, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife, while Dr. Roberts observed us with practiced patience. Let's start with that day, she said. The day Mary discovered her college fund was gone. Do we have to? Sydney squirmed in her seat. Yes, I said firmly. We do. I remember feeling justified, Sydney admitted after a long pause, like I deserved it more because I had this grand plan to be famous. And now? Dr. Roberts prompted. Now I'm working as a junior administrative assistant, making coffee for people Mary's age who are already executives. Sydney's voice cracked. I wasted everything. Her money, my time, my reputation. Mom reached for her tissue box. We enabled her. We really thought, that I wasn't worth investing in, I finished. That I was just the practical one, the backup plan. No, Dad protested. We never thought. Really? I pulled out my phone, played the video I'd recorded that day. Their own voices filled the room. Sydney has that special something. You're more practical. Like you could handle Stanford anyway. Dr. Roberts watched their faces as they heard themselves. That must have been painful to record. I listen to it sometimes, I admitted, when I'm doubting myself. It reminds me how far I've come. Sydney burst into tears. I was horrible. I can't believe I laughed at your dreams. Sydney, Dr. Roberts said gently. Why do you think you did that? Because I was terrified of failing. The words exploded out of her. Mary always knew what she wanted. She worked hard, had real goals. I thought if I could be famous fast, I could prove I was special too. The session continued, peeling back layers of resentment, jealousy, and misplaced priorities. By the end, we were all emotionally exhausted. In the parking lot, Sydney caught up with me. I got my first paycheck yesterday. I know, the scholarship fund received your deposit. It felt good, actually, earning something real. She hesitated. My co-worker mentioned they're looking for someone in the IT department. I thought, maybe I could take some coding classes. I studied her face, searching for any trace of the entitled girl who'd laughed at my ambitions. Instead, I saw something new, humility, maybe even determination. The community college has excellent night classes, I said finally. I could help you with the application. The next week, Dad called me to his financial management class. Would you mind sitting in? There's something I need to say. I found him standing at the front of the class, hands shaking slightly. This is my daughter Mary, he told the room full of other struggling business owners. 5 years ago, I stole her college fund to finance my other daughter's social media career. I lost everything, my business, my home, and most importantly, my daughter's trust. Don't make my mistakes. Don't let pride blind you to what really matters. Later, over coffee, he showed me his new budget plan. The bankruptcy advisor says if we stick to this, we could be debt-free in 3 years. That's good, Dad. Mary, his voice was small, I'm sorry, not just for the money, for not believing in you. Mom's transformation was slower, more resistant, but after a month of working in the financial aid office, something changed. I met a girl today, she told me during our next therapy session. She reminded me of you. Brilliant, hardworking, but her parents, they didn't think college was necessary for a girl. She wiped her eyes. I helped her find scholarships, loans, work-study opportunities. I kept thinking about how no one did that for you, how we did the opposite. Did she get the funding she needed? I asked. Mom smiled through her tears. Yes. She starts next semester. Dr. Roberts leaned forward. How did that make you feel, helping her? Like I was finally doing what a mother should do, supporting someone's dreams instead of crushing them. As I drove home that evening, Brady called to check in. How was therapy? Surprising, I answered. They're actually trying, really trying. And how do you feel about that? I thought about Sydney's coding classes, Dad's humility, Mom's gradual understanding. Cautiously optimistic, but also what? Proud of myself. Not for succeeding despite them, but for giving them a chance to become better people. I pulled into my driveway. Even if it took a legally binding contract to make it happen. That's because you're not just the practical one anymore, Brady said. You're the strong one, the wise one. He was right. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving, and somehow impossibly helping my family learn to thrive too. On my terms this time. 6 months into our contract, I sat in the audience at Sydney's community college, watching her give a presentation for her introductory programming class. Her hands shook slightly as she demonstrated the simple app she'd built, but her voice was steady. And that's how I created my first budgeting application, she concluded, inspired by my own experience with financial mismanagement. During the Q&A, someone asked about her previous career as an influencer. Actually, Sydney replied, meeting my eyes in the audience, that wasn't a career. That was me stealing my sister's future because I was too afraid to build my own. This, learning to code, working a real job, building something useful, this is my career. After the presentation, I found her in the hallway. So, she asked nervously, what did you think? The code needs work, I said honestly, but the concept is solid. A budgeting app for college students. I thought maybe it could help prevent others from making my mistakes. She clutched her laptop. Would you maybe help me develop it further? Before I could answer, Mum and Dad arrived, having slipped in late. Sorry we missed the presentation, Dad said. The financial management class ran long, but look, he pulled out a certificate. Finally completed the course. And I helped 3 students secure full rides today, Mom added. One of them cried. I used to think those tears were dramatic, but now... She trailed off, remembering. How about we discuss Sydney's app over dinner? I suggested. I know a great Thai place nearby. At the restaurant, Sydney spread out her design notes, while Dad reviewed her projected development costs. This could actually work, he said, running the numbers. Small scale at first, but with the right marketing strategy. No, Sydney interrupted. No more get-rich-quick schemes. I want to do this right, build it properly, test it thoroughly. Mary, that's why I want your help. Not for shortcuts, but for guidance. I felt something shift in my chest. Okay, I said, but we do this my way. Proper development cycles, user testing, gradual rollout. Deal, she beamed. Thank you, sis. Later that week, during our therapy session, Dr. Roberts noted the change in our dynamic. Sydney's asking for help instead of taking, she observed. Mary's offering guidance instead of judgment. This is significant progress. I've been thinking, Mum said suddenly, about the scholarship fund. What if we contributed more? Not just Sydney's portion of her salary, but something from all of us? We could call it the Second Chance Fund, Dad suggested, for students who need help starting over. I felt tears prick my eyes. You'd do that. We owe you so much more than money, Sydney said softly. We owe you an entire future that we tried to steal. Maybe this way, we can help give other students the chance we almost took from you. Dr. Roberts smiled. Mary, how does that make you feel? Validated, I admitted. Like you finally understand what education means, what dreams mean. After the session, Dad pulled me aside. The house goes on the market next week. Are you okay with that? No, he said honestly. But I'm learning that being okay with something isn't as important as doing what's right. We found a smaller place, closer to Sydney's school and your mom's volunteer work. And your new job? He smiled wryly. Being a junior accountant at 60 isn't exactly what I planned, but it's honest work. That means something now. That night, I met Brady for our weekly dinner. "You're looking thoughtful," he noted. "Sydney asked for my help with her app today. Actually asked instead of assuming or demanding. And I wanted to help her. Genuinely wanted to." I pushed my food around. "Is that weird? After everything?" "No," Brady said. "It's growth. On both sides." My phone buzzed. A text from Sydney. "Reviewed your coding suggestions. Makes so much sense now. Thank you for being patient with me. Coffee tomorrow to discuss the next module?" As I typed back yes, I realized something profound. The contract I'd drafted 6 months ago wasn't just changing them, it was changing me too. The walls I'd built for protection were slowly transforming into bridges. "You know what's funny?" I told Brady. "I created that contract to make them understand what they'd done to me, but watching them actually do the work, make real changes, it's healing something in me too." "That's because you're giving them what they didn't give you," he replied. "A chance to prove they can be better." I thought about Sydney's app, Dad's humble new job, Mum's dedication to helping students. Small steps, but real ones. Genuine changes, not just performances for my benefit. "Maybe," I said, "that's what real family does. Not just love each other, but help each other grow." The final payment hit my account on a Tuesday morning. I stared at the notification, remembering the scared girl who'd fled with nothing but a suitcase and determination. Now sitting in my office at Stanford, I pulled out the contract that had changed everything. My phone buzzed, a message from Sydney. "Check the App Store, we're live." I opened the store and found it immediately. Fresh Start Finance, building better financial futures. Below the description was my sister's name as lead developer, and mine as project advisor. 300 downloads already, Brady said, poking his head into my office. "Not bad for day one." "Did you see the dedication page?" He leaned over my shoulder as I tapped through the app. There it was, in simple text. "To my sister Mary, who taught me that real success comes from hard work, not shortcuts. Thank you for my second chance." The door opened again. Mum, carrying her volunteer coordinator badge and a stack of files. "2 more full scholarships approved," she announced. "The Second Chance Fund is making a real difference. You should see these students' faces when they realize they can actually afford college." "Speaking of the fund," Dad entered behind her, straightening his accountant's tie. "The quarterly reports are ready. We've helped 28 students so far." I looked at them, really looked at them. Mum's pride wasn't about appearances anymore, but about impact. Dad's confidence came from honest work, not risky schemes. And Sydney, she'd traded Instagram filters for computer filters, building something real. "Family therapy in 20 minutes, Sydney reminded everyone joining us. "Dr. Roberts said it's time to discuss ending the formal sessions." "Are we ready for that?" Mum asked. "I think we are," I said, surprising myself. "Look at us. Actually talking. Actually listening." "Remember our first session?" Sydney laughed. "We could barely look at each other." "Because we were all carrying shame," Dad admitted. "Me for failing as a father, Sydney for what she'd done, your mother for enabling it. And me for being angry," I added, "for needing that contract to force you to change." "That contract saved us," Mum said quietly. "Not just financially. It made us face ourselves." Brady cleared his throat. "Speaking of facing things, Mary, should we tell them?" I nodded, standing up. "We're getting married. Small ceremony next month." "Oh, honey." Mom stepped forward, then hesitated. Would it be okay if I helped plan it?" The old fear flickered. Would she try to take over, make it about appearances? But I saw only genuine hope in her eyes. "Actually," I said, "I'd really like that." Sydney wiped her eyes. "Does this mean, are we really family again?" "We're something better," I replied. "We're a family that learned from our mistakes, that grew stronger from our breaks." Dr. Roberts welcomed us warmly when we arrived at her office. "I understand you want to discuss concluding our sessions." "The contract is fulfilled," I explained. "All the terms met, all the payments made." "And how do you feel about that?" I looked at my family, my real family, rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal. I feel like we don't need a contract anymore. They've proven who they are now. By keeping our promises, Dad said. By earning trust back, Mom added. By becoming people worthy of being called family, Sydney finished. Dr. Roberts smiled. Then I have one last assignment. Mary, what would you do if they needed help again? I'd give it, I said without hesitation. Not because of obligation, but because I trust who they've become. And we'd accept it with gratitude, Sydney said, but only after trying to solve things ourselves first. That, Dr. Roberts said, is how I know you're ready. Later at dinner, Brady raised his glass. To the strongest family I know. To second chances, Dad added. To doing the work, Mom said. To building something real, Sydney smiled. I looked at them, my once broken, now healing family, and raised my own glass. To growing together. As we ate, talked and laughed, I thought about that contract, safely filed away in my office. We'd needed it then, needed its structure and consequences to force us to face our truths. But we didn't need it anymore. What we had now was stronger than any legal document. It was trust, rebuilt from scratch. Understanding, earned through effort. Love, stronger for having been tested and proven. We had become the family we should have been all along, and that was worth more than any college fund. Ready to go home? Brady asked as we finished dinner. I looked at my family, really my family now, and smiled. I am home.